Friends, Jordan Montgomery here, and we're glad that you've tuned into another episode of the Growth Over Goals podcast. Before we jump into today's conversation, we want to give a shout out to our sponsor, Thompson & Co. Salon and Parlor. Thompson & Co. Salon and Parlor is a family-owned, stylist-owned community salon that fits the needs for all types of families. Located in downtown Iowa City and now a second location in Coralville, North Liberty area, TCO specializes in all things hair. In fact, that's where I've been getting my hair done for the last 7 years. TCO specializes in hair cutting, razor cutting, the most modern color techniques, and high-end hair extensions. As one of Iowa's only inner coiffure salons and Salon Today's top 200 salons in the U.S., TCO looks forward to being the salon of choice for you and those you love. Be sure to call or book on their website today at thompsonandcosalon.com. Thank you, TCO, for all you do for us and our community. Welcome to the Growth Over Goals podcast. I'm your host, Jordan Montgomery, today here with a dear friend who's got a new book coming out. He's been working hard. He's on the 1 yard line. He's about to rock the world of leadership, performance, health. I'm here with speaker, coach, the owner of a multiple seven-figure coaching business, former NHL performance coach, more importantly, just a great dude, strong believer, highly relational. You maybe have seen him on a stage or you've seen him across social media channels. Justin Roethlingshoefer also has the coolest last name of any one of my friends. Hey man, blessing to have your friendship, blessing to be with you today. You got a new book coming out. I just want to go right there. You've written multiple books now, and man, you have this amazing journey. You've been on a health journey, and you get this incredible story. But your new book is out, The Power of Ownership. It's about to drop. Redeem your health, live life by design, and break the relentless pursuit of normal. Why'd you write this book?
To be honest, Jordan, I wrote it from the old version of me, because at the end of the day, somebody who's a tip of the spear person, somebody who's pushing the envelope, somebody who's trying to change something in this world. They're on a mission. They're on they want to make impact. So often we believe that we have to trade something for our mission, trade something for this goal that we're after. And it often comes at the expense of our health, mental, physical, spiritual, emotional. The body doesn't know the difference between these forms of stress, between these forms of health. And so something of that goes in the pursuit of this mission. And for me, that's a part of my story. At 13, my dad said to me, son, talent will get you noticed, consistency will get you paid. And immediately my mind clicked. It was like, okay, I got to be the most consistent version of myself. What does that look like? How do I lean into that? What is that? How do I operationalize that? And so very young, I started to systemize my life. I looked at how I was eating. I looked at how I was training. I looked at how I was sleeping, how I was recovering. I had data to drive it, heart rate data, HRV data, sleep data. And that's how I made my decisions. Well, that obsession led me down to the States on a hockey scholarship. I got 2 undergraduate degrees, got my master's degree, did my postgraduate doctoral research in heart rate variability and sleep. And I only tell you all of that simply for the sense of I did all of that education in the span of just shy of 6 years. And so I was on a mission. I was on a mission to ultimately increase performance, on a mission to change the industry where it was no longer guessing, no longer just copying what to do, no longer just taking data, sitting it on a shelf and then doing the same thing we've always done because this is the way we've always done it. But I wanted to create personalization, customization, and really care about the person, the individual. Well, I stepped into the league. We started to see injury rates drop, sickness rates drop. We were starting to win. And all of a sudden, you started to get this notoriety. Became known as the data guy, became known as, hey, you need something in terms of personalization and customization and high performance, like go talk to Justin, like he's doing some cool work. And the more that I pushed, the more that I did it, the more that I drove down that category, I had the system for everybody else, but I failed to utilize the system for myself. And at 33, I all of a sudden had this epiphany where brain fog hit me. I ultimately wasn't sleeping well. I everything I ate created massive bloating and stomach discomfort that I couldn't figure out where it was coming from. And it ultimately got so bad that I remember I was in Chicago, had just finished my own workout. I went to pick up a medicine ball. I turned and the room spun and I fell. At this point, and I'm out cold. At this point, I had lost 25 pounds. I was only eating soups and smoothies because that's the only thing that wouldn't make me feel like I was about to blow up. And I went to every doctor imaginable. They all said, you're the picture of health. You've got the 6-pack abs. You've got the muscles. You've got the physique. You're running world championship triathlon times. You're competing in different adventure races. Like, you're doing all the things. Like, I don't know what you want me to tell you. But I was like, something's not right inside. And I ultimately went, I got a colonoscopy and an endoscopy. They found 4 polyps the size of my thumb, all precancerous, and a ulcer the size of a quarter in my stomach, precancerous. And he said, if you had not come in, you would not have seen your 35th birthday. And that's when it hit me that what I was doing, personalization, customization, it was not an athlete problem, but rather a human problem. And how do we now personalize how we're operating? How do we systemize how we're living? How do we take ownership of our health and live a life by design so that we can ultimately accomplish where we're going? Because the moment that I started to become weaker, and I'm not just talking physically, when I become weaker mentally, emotionally, spiritually, physically, because I don't feel well, everything I touched became weaker. The way I was able to show up for my family, the way I was able to show up as the entrepreneur, the way I was able to show up as the coach, the way I was able to do everything that my mission ultimately was, started to take a backseat as well. And so that is what I ultimately come around to, is to make sure that people understand how they do not have to trade their mission for their health, but rather when they walk side by side, you can ultimately have a bigger impact.
So good, man. And I love that you've been walking the talk and you've got a personal experience that was so real for you that inspired you further down this path to help others. Let's do a little bit of coaching today. Can we do that?
Yeah, let's roll.
There's execs and athletes that are paying you a lot of money for feedback and insight and data and help. And you've written this book to help the masses. And so I think this message, by the way, is inclusive and relevant. Like, I think anybody listening, like, this message is for you. We're all human and we all want to live a healthier, better, more productive life. And so where do you start somebody, Justin? Like, you're coaching with somebody, they engage you. Hey, Justin, I want to own my health. I want to own my performance. I would love to live a more productive, healthier life. Where does that process begin? And give us a window into your world.
Yeah, the first thing I always ask, and people are going to be like, oh, well, that's not what I thought he was going to say. But the first thing I always ask is, are you willing to do things differently than how you've ever done them? Because there's a lot of people that come and say, oh, I want this, I want that, but I want to continue to do the same things that I've been doing that got me to the position in which I'm at. And you have to realize, you have to understand, if you want to go where others can't, you have to do what others won't. And we have to realize that it has nothing to do with my opinion, has nothing to do with my feelings, has nothing to do with my emotions, but you have to understand what your body's communicating with you. And it starts with data. It starts with knowing what your body's saying. And there's 3 pieces of data that we have to get on you. There's 3 pieces of data we have to understand on you before we can actually even start to get really personal in a process and a system that will start to be a winner. Number 1 is heart rate variability. And we can dive into each one of these in depth as we go through. But heart rate variability. The second is sleep quality. And the third is cellular deficiencies. We have to know these 3 things. If we don't know these 3 things, there's no way that we can take a Jordan Montgomery approach. There's no way we can take a Justin Roethlingshoefer approach, because we're just going to be throwing broad brushstroke, generalized solutions at personalized problems. And so if you throw a generalized approach to a personalized problem, expect a generalized outcome. But 90% of us don't want the generalized outcome. We don't want what's normal. We don't want the thing that's normal. It's normal to have brain fog. It's normal to be tired. It's normal to be fatigued. It's normal not to sleep well. It's normal to have unexplained weight gain. It's normal to have hormonal issues. It's normal to walk into a room and get there and totally forget why you were supposed to be there in the first place. But these normal symptoms are causing us to create normal outcomes, which are the leading cause of death in the United States at chronic illness at 71%. Somebody dies of a heart attack every 30 seconds. Diabetes is on the rise at 170% every single year. Obesity has now hit 70%. The symptoms that we're experiencing that are normal, that we're accepting, are leading to the outcomes that we're ultimately accepting, but we don't desire, but we're not changing the system in which we're operating to get there. So if you're not okay with the generalized outcomes, you're going to make sure you don't operate with a generalized solution. And so we have to get personal. We have to get customized. And it starts with those three things.
Okay. So can we just dig into one of those three things? Because I have some questions. And so
let's go.
I'm going to treat this like a little bit of a coaching session. Come on now. Sleep. It's like such an important topic. I think it's kind of the sexy topic in the personal development world.
Yeah.
Most of us know we need more of it. We're not getting it. We know it's important. I mean, talk to us about like how, and again, I know we have to take a customized approach and everybody's maybe a little bit different, but what are some truths about sleep that most people either don't know or aren't acknowledging? Like, what should we know about sleep that maybe we haven't heard before, Justin?
Yeah, I'm gonna take a two-prong approach to this. So number one is heart rate variability, which was the first thing I said we need to understand, is the measure of how our body is adapting to stress and strain. Our body doesn't know the difference between mental, physical, spiritual, emotional stress. And so I'm not talking about the pull your hair out stress. I'm just talking about the way we operate stress. Not getting a good night's sleep is a form of stress on our body. Even though you're like, oh, I just didn't get good sleep, and you just carry on with your day, you don't realize the internal factors, the internal adjustments, the internal adaptations that your body has to make in order to continue to function that following day at a high level that you expect. And so if we think about stacking poor sleeps on top of each other over and over and over and over again, it's ultimately going to start to suppress heart rate variability, meaning a lower HRV is an alert to you and I that the lifestyle you're living, the habits, behaviors, and ultimately lifestyle choices that you're engaging in are not in rhythm with how your body's ultimately operating. We need to do things differently. We need to make some changes. A higher HRV means we have a greater capacity to do more. So just a simple heart rate variability metric will help us understand, hey, is what you're doing consistently working, or is what you're doing consistently not working? So it gives us a really nice insight to that. Now, why did I start with that? Because heart rate variability is impacted by 8 different factors, 8 different lifestyle factors. Sleep being a major one of those, which we'll dive into here. Sleep, exercise, nutrition, hydration, mindset, environment, self-care, and immune function. Those 8 areas are all levers that we can pull to decrease the stress load or change that our body has to ultimately adapt to. So we come back to sleep. And how can we now take ownership of our sleep? Well, number one, you have to understand that sleep quantity and sleep quality are not the same thing. Sleep quantity and sleep quality are not the same thing. There's 4 stages of sleep that we go through in a 90 to 120 minute period. We have a light sleep stage, we have a slow wave sleep stage, we have a REM sleep stage, and then we have a light sleep stage, a wake cycle, That happens over the course of 90 to 120 minutes. What creates sleep quality is the amount of time spent in these middle 2, slow wave and REM. And the slow wave and REM sleep should accomplish about 40 to 50% of our total sleep time. So Jordan, if you're sleeping for 8 hours a night, you should have somewhere between 3.5 and 4 hours in REM and slow wave sleep. Well, the only way we're going to understand that is if we start tracking sleep quality. We need to know how much time we're spending, because I've heard it countless number of times. Justin, there's no way I can sleep for 7 hours a night. There's no way I can sleep for 8 hours a night. I operate really well on 5 hours of sleep. Well, nobody operates really well on 5 hours of sleep. Now, what can happen is you can be a high quality sleeper because you have just created a great sleep environment, or you have great sleep habits, or you have great sleep hygiene, and thus you sleep for a lesser duration, and you still get high amounts of quality sleep in that night. I'll give a perfect example. We had a client who came in, slept 8 hours every single night. Goes, Justin, I don't know why. I wake up, I'm still tired. But you looked at their sleep quality, it was about 25%. So 2 hours out of every 8 hour sleep was quality. Conversely, we had this guy, he ran a major business and was traveling all over the country, but had really purposeful sleep routines. We built a lot of this based on what he needed to do. Had an average of about 6 hours of sleep. Often it was closer to 5, but an average of around 6. He was at 53% sleep quality. So that guy's getting between 2.5 and 3 hours of quality sleep. So this guy's sleeping 2 to 3 hours less than this other person, but getting an hour to an hour and a half of better sleep every single night. So think about that. That's an hour to an hour and a half more every single night. That's now all of a sudden somewhere between 7 and 12 every single week, somewhere between 30 and 45 every single month. Like, you just can't make these numbers up over the course of time. Like, you just fall so far behind. So sleep quality becomes such an important factor in how do we actually get to those sleep quality stages. I can dive into some of these if you want me to go down as to like what tactics can we start to play with that are going to, again,
let's get practical. So like, what would be the practical application of sleep better with more quality?
So we'll go down a road of about 6 or 7 things, very practical, very things that you can take away. Number 1, sleep consistency. The time you go to bed and the time you wake up, if you can do that within about a 30-minute window, that's what all the research proves and shows will increase sleep quality to the maximum amount. Why? Because now your hormonal release is not disrupted. Your circadian rhythm is optimized. So at night, we need melatonin high. At cortisol, or in the morning, we need cortisol high. What happens is if we start to have a very interrupted sleep quality, meaning we go to, or pardon me, bedtime or wake time, say we go to bed typically at 10 p.m. Well, around 8 or 9 o'clock, you're starting to get into some peak melatonin release. But say, Jordan, you're now going and you're going to send emails late. You maybe go to a party. You go to bed one night at midnight. You go to bed another night at 10. You go to bed another night at 11. You go to bed another night at 1. Your body's like, bro, I don't know when to release melatonin anymore. You're conflicting. You're asking for more energy, which requires me to give you more cortisol, but I can't have high cortisol at the same time I have melatonin. So it's no wonder we lay in bed with our eyes wide awake, our mind racing, and not able to actually fall asleep. So a consistent sleep and wake time, really critical, really crucial on making sure that we can get into those deep states of quality sleep. Once we establish a really consistent sleep and wake time, let's just choose 10 o'clock bedtime, 6 o'clock wake up, just for easy math. We now go into what I call the 3-2-1 rule. So 3 hours before bed, no more major meals, because we have 400 times more melatonin produced in our gut than is produced by the pineal gland in our brain. So if we're taking in a major meal between 7 and 10, our body now can't release the melatonin necessary. It now has to start digesting a major meal and major food. You've probably had like a steak late at night and you just toss and turn all night. You're like, man, I feel terrible. I don't know why I can't sleep. That's why. 2 hours before bed, no more major decision-making processes. Why? Because mental, physical, spiritual, emotional, the body doesn't know the difference between these forms of stress. So you could all of a sudden be trying to figure out, okay, where am I sending the kids to college? You could have the conversation with your wife about what are we doing tomorrow with like the organization and structure with the sitter, or who's taking who to different classes. And it's like your brain now has to start working. When it has to start working and has to start problem solving, it's going to increase cortisol, which is now going to decrease melatonin, which is going to increase that inner machine that's going to keep working, that's going to cause the mind to race, that will, again, keep you out of those deep stages of sleep. So we want to start shutting off and have boundaries around deep conversation and when we should be getting really nice wind down time. And then 1 hour before bed, we should eliminate all blue light. So computers, tablets, phones, TVs, iPads, you name it. Because for every 30 minutes of blue light exposure after the sun sets, it ultimately suppresses melatonin release by up to 1 hour. So if we
say that again.
If for every 30 minutes of blue light exposure after the sun sets, it suppresses melatonin release by upwards of 1 hour.
Wow.
So if we watch an hour of TV from 8 until 9, we could be suppressing melatonin release from 10 all the way till about midnight. And so we're missing out on 2 high quality sleep hours in the course of our evening that is obviously going to have a major impact on how we're getting into those deep stages of sleep. And blue light is ultimately what tells us to be awake, tells us what to be alert. Blue light is amazing to get exposed to in the morning, amazing to get exposed to during the day, because that's what keeps us alert and ready to go. And so that's going to be, again, consistent sleep and consistent bed and wake time, sleep and wake time. That 3-2-1 rule: 3 hours before bed, no food; 2 hours before bed, no more major decisions; and 1 hour before bed, no more blue light. Within that last hour, I like people to develop something for them called a parasympathetic buffet, or a relaxation buffet, or a down regulation buffet. Any of these words will help you understand what it is. But you don't have to think about what to do. You've got like this list of 20 things. Maybe you've got walk your dog. Maybe you've got stretching. Maybe you've got journaling. Maybe you've got a hot shower. Maybe you've got washing your face, brushing your teeth. Maybe you've got some form of yoga. Maybe you've got breath work. Maybe you've got a little meditation. Maybe you've got Bible reading. Maybe you've got sitting out in the backyard hammock looking at the stars because that's something you love to do. Maybe it's just laying in bed and having what you would agree to pillow talk with your spouse. Something like this that allows you to truly down regulate and activate the parasympathetic, or rest, digest, and sleep nervous system that prepares us for one of the most important things we can do, which is sleep. And so that's how we now design this in a very unique way. One of the biggest questions that I often get is, well, Justin, what happens when I don't have that option, or I get pushed really late and I have to stay to a meeting and I get home and now I'm in bed at 10 and I don't now sleep until 10:30 or 11 o'clock. Do I now push my wake time to that, to an hour later?
Yep.
And the answer is no. Because what ends up happening is we still want that consistent wake time. So we'll take less sleep, but then here's the cool thing. We design the best nap ever. And how do we design the best nap ever? Well, our circadian rhythm operates off of a 12-hour window. If we have a consistent sleep and wake time of 10 p.m. and 6 a.m. We'll just choose that because that's what we went with. How we design the best nap ever is we look at the average, or the middle number between 10 and 6. So it's going to be the middle number between 10 and 6 is 2 a.m., right? Add 4 hours to 10, subtract 4 hours from 6, 2 a.m. So 2 a.m. is what our body is operating off of, that 12-hour circadian rhythm window. So if we flip that and just went AM to PM, at 2 p.m. is going to be our optimal nap window. And the way we get the best nap ever is either going to be less than 20 minutes or approximately 90. And what that will do is make sure that we don't enter into a slow wave or REM sleep stage, so it doesn't get us groggy when we're waking up. Or number 2, it allows us to get through a full sleep cycle so that we now wake up refreshed and ready to go. So that is how we would optimize for a nap if we ever needed one, or if we had to stay up later than normal, but still wake up at the same time.
Dude, I feel like we could just have, this is the sleep episode on the Growth Over Goals podcast. Like, I'm learning a ton. And I heard a health expert once say, and maybe you agree with this, maybe you don't, but like, diet and exercise get so much attention when it comes to health and performance.
Oh yeah.
And sleep gets not nearly as much attention, but yet sleep is just as important, if not more important, than diet and exercise. Would you agree with that?
Totally, 100%. Because here's the thing is, I mean, I can even dive into to dive into more of this is there's something active in your body called the glymphatic system. And the glymphatic system is basically the car wash for your brain. And the glymphatic system is 95% most active and more active when you're sleeping than any other time of the day. So if you think about all the toxins, all the things that your brain's processing all day, all the things that it has to go through, if it doesn't get the car wash or the brain wash through the glymphatic system every night, those toxins are just building up and building up and building up. And that's why we have brain fog. That's why we have early onset dementia and Alzheimer's. That's why we have chronic headaches. That's why we can't ultimately feel energized and mentally clear first thing in the day, because there's actually something internally not right that we're consistently earning our way towards. I say you either earn your health or you earn your illness. Because based upon the habits and behaviors that you choose to do, you will either get closer to where you want to go or further away. And you're earning one of those based on your intentionality and consistency of whether you choose to be intentional or you choose not to be. And we have to make sure that we have the awareness. And if you simply don't change your habit, or if you simply don't change your habits, or you simply don't change your behaviors, it's simply telling me that you haven't learned. And if you haven't learned, it tells me again that you simply just don't understand. Because if you understood the consequences of the decisions that you were making consciously or unconsciously, intentionally or unintentionally, you would immediately choose something different, because nobody would want to choose to get early onset Alzheimer's. Nobody would want to choose to have dementia. Nobody would want to choose to suffer with chronic brain fog and what that was ultimately accomplishing. But you chose not to go to bed at this time. You chose to eat at this time. You chose to have that glass of coffee at 3:00 in the afternoon. You chose to have that glass of wine before bed. You chose to take that melatonin. Like, those are three things we can also talk about. The impact of melatonin. We can talk about what alcohol does. We can talk about what caffeine does, because I think those will be really valuable for everybody as well.
So good. Man, I wish we had a 2-hour segment, because you're just dropping all kinds of wisdom and knowledge. There's at least somebody, probably multiple people who are thinking, wait a minute, this guy's in his 30s. How does he know all this? And so I want to go back to earning it, because I think, Justin, you're so much more than a health coach, performance expert. I think you're a leader of people. I think you're an inspiration. I think you help people create change. Man, you've inspired me. And in prepping for our conversation, now we have a friendship, but I'm just looking back at your background and, okay, how did you get to where you're at today? And I stumbled upon this really fascinating part of your journey that most people wouldn't know about. And you're getting started and you have this book launch event. And I found this so interesting. So I won't steal the thunder, but tell us about the, New York City major book launch event in your past.
So I get emotional just even thinking about it. So this was a major pivotal moment in my life, because I had just left the NHL. You have to realize here that I had just gotten sick. I had just gone through this battle. I heard the Lord clearly say, it's time to serve the audience that I've called you to, and not the audience that you wanted to. And very boldly, very unconfidently, I'll say, I stepped away, but just out of obedience. And there was about 8 months where I wasn't working, where I was just reading, getting more knowledge, more education, trying to build this business. I still remember standing outside of luxury apartment buildings in New York City, where a lot of the big successful business owners would hang out, and they'd walk out and I'd give them a flyer and I'd say, hey, I'm a health optimization guy. I came from the NHL, and they would look at me. Some guys threw it on the ground. Some guys were like, hey, I like the hustle, but never heard back. And I had two people that gave me a chance. And that was like the first opportunity that I really leaned in. Well, over the course of that last 6 months in the league, I had started writing this book. It was called Blueprint. And as these two people started to do more work with me, they started to all of a sudden just feel better. They started to see life transformation. They were like, wow, like you should really make a business out of this. And I'm not a business guy. I came straight from the league where everything was handled for you. And I was like, well, I do have this book that is written that I'm just like trying to launch. And so, you know what, maybe this is what the Lord set me up for. This is what he has me doing. He's like, you're going to work for it. You're going to be in like the dark and like just not know what's happening. I opened up your window and here you go. I'm like, all right, this is it. Let's go. So I had a camera crew come because nowadays you have to get content. You have to get content for what you're doing. So I brought a video crew in. Remember, this is 2019. So this is 5 years ago. So I've never done any of this stuff. So I bring a film crew in. I have a camera crew there. I sent out invites. I took out the Lululemon headquarters at downtown New York City. They emailed their email list because I paid to be in their location. So they were like, oh, the health and wellness performance. This is right up Lululemon's alley. We'll send it out to our email list of like VIPs in downtown New York. My wife sent it out to some people. I sent it to my network, but I was new to New York City, so I didn't have a big friend network there. I brought in somebody to open for me. I had a couple sponsors fly up. I had the whole food spread out. I had 42 people RSVP yes. And it was set for I can't remember what day it was. I think it was a Saturday at 7 p.m. If you're ever doing an event in New York, never do it on a Saturday night at 7 p.m. But I get to the facility. I'm all excited. I feel really good. And 6:30 rolls around. There's nobody here. Not a single soul. There's all my people. Everything's set up well. 6:45, no one's here. I go down the stairs. I look outside. Maybe I'll open the door. Maybe I'll put a sign outside. I open the door. I put a sign outside. All of a sudden, I hear footsteps coming up, and it's a homeless man. And I was like, oh my gosh, like, here's an apple and a bar and a book, like, but I don't think is what you're looking for. And anyway, 7:15, 7:30, nobody. Nobody. I'm not even like nobody, Jordan. Not a single soul walked in. And everybody around is looking at me like, what are you going to do? I'm near tears. Like I'm my confidence is gone. I'm the imposter of the century. I'm never gonna succeed. I'm never gonna figure it out. I have no idea what I'm doing. I should just go find another job in the NHL or in sports somewhere, because you're not meant to impact the people you're going on this journey with. And I don't know what it was, but something flipped inside of me and goes, deliver it anyways. Deliver it anyways. So I got up at the front and I said, well, I guess it's showtime. And everyone looked at me like, what are you doing? And so I turned around, I rubbed my eyes because the tears were about to come. And I turned around and I just looked the camera guy right in the face. And I just delivered this thing for an hour. And I went off and I had energy and I was faking it. And I was just literally trying to be as courageous as I possibly could. And the thing ended. And I looked at the camera guy. He said, well, at least we got a show. And I said, mark my words, there will be one day where this room is full. And he goes, okay, kid, we'll see you then. And that everybody left. I went home. I cried the whole way home. I got up to the apartment. I said to my wife didn't even come. I said to my wife as I walked in the door, she goes, how was it? And I'm crying and she's like, what's wrong? And I told her a story. She was like, oh my gosh, now I feel so bad. I didn't even come. But yeah, that was the book launch that was supposed to launch this next phase of my career and my journey and my mission. And it was a complete flop. And I come back to that story because I just feel like the Lord was preparing me and he was testing, like, is this a mission you're on out of convenience or is this a mission you're on because you're convicted?
Wow.
And it was at that moment that I was like, nope, this is where we're at. And this journey that we've been on over the last 4 or 5 years of starting the business and moving and getting into this and really on this mission to redeem the health of the world and to help people take ownership of their health in a personalized way, with the outcome metric of taking the leading cause of death, which is chronic illness, at 71% and dropping it to less than 50% by the year 2035. Like, that is something that's real to us. And it has not been easy. It has been difficult. There's been hard seasons. There's been things where you have to start changing messaging. You have to reach people different ways. You have to go through a ton of rejection. You have to go through this thing where people just don't get it. They want the quick fix. You've got the medical system pushing back against you. You've got the insurance companies pushing back against you. You've got the people that are, hey, all high five. I'm all for this. I'm all about this, but I don't want to change what I'm doing. I don't want to put any more effort in. I just want it to be the easy button. I don't understand what I'm doing. I don't know how to change my habits, my behaviors. Maybe I can do something else because somebody else has promised me something that seems a little bit easier. And so all of these things are a part of this journey that we've had to come to ultimately realize today, where we've got a book coming out in 2 weeks that's pushing for New York Times bestseller status, that I'm speaking all over not just the country but internationally now, and it's slowly coming. And Jordan, I say there's 4 words that I just lean on so heavily, which outlines my concept of inevitability. And so in this concept of inevitability, I say there's 4 things you need. You need a high level of intentionality. Every single thing that you do, there needs to be an intention behind it. Why are you doing something? How are you designing this? And it comes back to how I live, right? A high level of intentionality. It's what we teach, a life by design, a high level of intentionality. Number 2, a high degree of consistency. It's not perfection, but consistency. And if you have the intentionality about why you're doing something, consistency happens as a byproduct. Well, aggressive patience. Number 3, aggressive patience. You're not going to get it right the first time. You're going to fall off the wagon. It's going to fail. You're going to be tested, because a calling that isn't tested is a calling that can't be trusted. And so as you continue to move, as you continue to lean, this aggressive patience is necessary. It's required. And then a high understanding of obedience is being obedient to what it is you're called to, obedient to what you're called to in the season. An obedient heart is what will create your concept of inevitability. It's inevitable that this podcast will come to an end. It's inevitable that this day will come to an end. It's inevitable that you will go home to your families. But what do you want the outcome to be? And if you're intentional with it, if you're consistent with it, if you have a high level of obedience and a lot of patience, the outcome that you want is inevitable. It is inevitable that I will become a New York best-selling author. It is inevitable that I will ultimately sell out stadiums. It is inevitable that I will redeem the health of the world. But I just might not do it tomorrow. It's just how long am I willing to do it? How long am I willing to be intentional? How long am I willing to be consistent? How long am I willing to stay in it? I call that time the empty mile. It's not the extra mile, the empty mile, because you're just the last one standing. You're just the one who's crazy enough to believe in your mission enough. You're just the one who's wild enough to build a life by design that's been oriented around something that is so purposeful, so meaningful to you, and so life-giving and so servanthood driven that there is going to be things that orchestrate around you, because your outcome has already been determined. You just need to prepare yourself to get there, because what you're praying for is so much less than what you're called for. But what you're called for, you're not yet prepared for. So how do you prepare yourself to make sure that you can step into that calling and do it over the course of time so that the outcome that you're waiting for is inevitable?
We just preached an entire sermon. That's amazing, man. I mean, I just have pages of notes. A calling that can't be, a calling that isn't tested is a calling that can't be trusted. Bro, you've been tested. And I appreciate you sharing your story and being vulnerable and being authentic with our listeners, because there's somebody here that needs to hear that. You know, I love what you said about, if you want to have what others don't, then you have to do what others don't. You want to have influence others don't have, you got to do things others don't do. And so, Justin, I'm just inspired by your commitment to this work. I mean, we interview a lot of people on the podcast about all kinds of different topics when it comes to personal development, leadership development. And there's some who are, absolute subject matter experts. And then there's others who are maybe less experienced. But given your age and what you've been through over the last, call it 5-6 years, like you have, and I just want to speak this over you and encourage you, man, you have expedited, you have gone so much farther, so much faster in your subject matter expertise and in your craft than most people will ever go. And so, Thank you. You're driven. I feel your passion. Even if there's somebody listening today that's like, man, I don't even want to know about health. Like they were inspired, like we got probably somebody listening. It's like, man, I don't know. I don't need to know, or I'm already in great health or whatever. But like, you're so much more than a health expert. And that's what I want to leave you with. That's what I want to leave our listeners with. Like, I think when they pick up your new book, they're going to get more than just like some performance tips and health optimization. And while that's incredibly important and your content is so rich and you know it so well, I think people are going to be inspired to create change and follow their calling. I think they're going to be moved. I think you've got a kingdom-minded way of operating. And so just want to acknowledge that, honor that, tell you that, dude, as your friend, so excited for you. April 22nd, man, it's coming. This book is dropping. Matter of fact, as you're listening, you're probably thinking it's already out. We're probably going to release this episode in a couple of weeks. And so as this episode is airing, it's likely that you can get the book. Justin, where do people go? I know pre-sale right now, so they can order it like right now, but where do you want them to go to get the book?
Yeah. So if you go to thepowerofownershipbook.com. So thepowerofownership.com is where you can grab a copy of that. And I'm just so excited for people to get it into their hands because, Jordan, you're right. When I wrote this book, and I'll tell two stories to kind of complete here as to why this matters, is when I signed the book deal with Wiley, they gave me an editorial deadline. And I wrote this book. I finished the book 5 days before the editorial deadline. And I had a dream the night before I submitted it. And I just heard from the Lord so specifically that this was not the book that you were supposed to write. And wow. I was like, nah, I'm going to submit it anyways. I can't rewrite the thing in this amount of time. The next day, I just still couldn't hit it in. And I went to bed that next night and, I was like, I'll submit it in the morning if nothing happens. Well, 11:45, I woke up wide awake. Same feeling. This wasn't the book you were supposed to write. So I got up, I printed it off. I laid it all across my kitchen table. And I just started going at it, started crossing things off, started writing what stories I needed to interject, what things I needed to change, what things I needed to combine, what things I needed to adjust, what analogies I needed to move, had sticky notes all over the place. My wife woke up in the morning. She comes out, she sees this mad scientist in the kitchen. I'm like, do not blow, do not open up a door, do not do anything because this stuff's going to go everywhere. And I don't know where it's supposed to be. But 52 hours later, I had a completely new book. My wife had read it before and she read it after. And she goes, Justin, like, where did this come from? And I said, these aren't my words. Like, I didn't write this. I had a ghostwriter.
Wow.
The Lord. And it just came out of me. And it was amazing. And so I just get really excited to have it in people's hands because I say, I have a hope and I have a promise. I hope that it educates you in a way that you've never been educated before. I hope that it equips you. It equips you with the tools, the knowledge, the wisdom to be able to now have a bigger impact of how to take ownership of your health. And then I hope it empowers you. I hope it empowers you to actually do something different. I hope it empowers you so that you're no longer at the mercy of a person, a place, or a thing to be able to understand how to take ownership of your health, but rather moves you in that direction. And number 4, I hope it entertains you. It's not something that's going to be dry. It's not something that's going to be really like a hard read, a heady read, but something very similar to like our conversation today that is inspirational, that's motivational, that has real science that comes in that you're able to now relate to. And then my promise is that I promise that I kept it simple. I promise that I kept it relatable. I promise that you'll be able to see yourself in this book and be able to now use this as a tool, not just today, but next year, next month, next season, that you need to ultimately have this newfound experience when something changes and you need to do something different.
Power of ownership. You're owning it, man. You're passionate. You're driven. You're an inspiration. I can't wait for people to get their hands on this book. And we're going to add the link So you can go straight to Justin's book, order it, get it in your hands. We're going to add it to the show notes. Bro, thank you for being here. You're a gift. I just am so excited for what's going to happen in your life moving forward. And again, so much respect, the work that you've put in to get to this place. So you're just getting started, brother. Honored to be on a journey with you. God bless you. Thank you for being with us today. I appreciate you pouring into our audience.
So great, Jordan. I appreciate you. And honestly, it's because of people like you that have inspired me to continue to keep moving, continue to keep going. And I just love our friendship. I love the way that we continue to challenge each other and continue to just be servant leaders in this world. And to do it side by side with you is such an honor.
Hey, right back at you, man. Keep following the calling on your life. It's a supersized calling, man. And God's got a huge plan for you. So God bless you, bro. Thanks for being here.
Thanks, Jordan.
This has been another episode of the Growth Over Goals podcast. I'm your host, Jordan Montgomery. Thank you for listening. Thanks for being here. If you found any value in this episode, I would love it if you would rate, review, subscribe to this podcast in an effort that we might move our mission of impact forward. I also want to say thank you to our producers, John Choate and James Roth of Storyline Multimedia, for all of the work that they do behind the scenes to make this podcast go. Be well, be great. Have a wonderful day.